All of the campaigning rules previously disclosed to all the candidates will be enforced tonight. We'll also have designated speaking times to help us manage how much time we spend addressing each question. So Alondra, one of our Elections Commission members, will be holding up the sign over there to keep track of time. And you guys can feel free to divide the speaking times however you feel is most appropriate while we go along the questions. Also, this town hall Zoom webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared in the essay YouTube page for those who are unable to join us live tonight. So we'll now have the candidates running for student body president and vice president introduce themselves and provide a brief overview of their campaign. As a reminder to the audience, the student body president and vice president race is a joint ticket race as codified in the SA Constitution. Meghana?
Thanks, Will. First of all, thank you for everyone for coming out and watching us live, I guess virtually. My name is Abujala. I'm a current junior at the college. I study finance and accounting, and I'm minoring in religious studies. I joined SA as a freshman senator, I guess 2.5, 3 years ago now. I joined honestly just because I wanted to meet friends. But as the days went by, I realized that you can enact true change. My first bill was writing a s'mores bill with my class. So the first official act I did in SA was order graham crackers. Now, that was a very small thing to do, but I realized that first evening where we threw the s'mores event, that only 40 people came, but they had a great time. And it made a Friday evening much happier. And I realized the power of SA in building community, bringing together students, and actually enacting change. Over the past 3 years, I've been able to chair the finance committee, where I got an in-depth view on how organizations interact with SA. And as Senate chair this year, I was able to understand how Senate functions, but also how SA impacts the student body. And a lot of that role has kind of driven me to run for president. And that's why I'm very excited and humbled to run for president and hopefully make a change that makes this campus much better and happier for students. But yeah, and I'll pass it off to Zenobia now.
Hi, I'm Zenobia. I'm currently a junior at the college. I'm majoring in international relations with a minor in global education. And I have not spent much time in SA at all, but during my time on campus, I've had a chance to be involved in lots of organizations, doing lots of work around the greater Williamsburg area, lots of community service, stuff like that. So I've had a chance to be really introspective and figure out what's important to me. And, when Meghana reached out to me about being on the ticket, I really felt like that was the way for me to go. So I'm really excited to be here, and yeah.
Yeah, and our campaign platform focuses on several things, but really centered around two main things. One is, how do we get out of this COVID pandemic safely? And how do we, after we get out of it, how do we do it in a way where we're rebuilding student life and paying attention to the things that we went through this past year, and how are we going to fix that? What role can SA play in that? And the second thing is really focusing on movements of social justice that are happening on campus right now. How can SA be an ally that the students need? And what do the students truly want? I feel like being in SA for 3 years has shown me exactly what SA could do and what it does. But now it's evident that the students want something more. So how do we change ourselves? How do we bring in more student leadership? And how do we make ourselves this true funnel between administration and the students?
Great, thank you for your introductions. We'll now move on to the questions submitted by community members. And for full transparency to the audience, these questions were shared with these candidates ahead of time, unlike the class representative candidate town halls. Hopefully we're hoping that this helps us have more of a conversation since you're uncontested. And we wanted this discussion to be more of an opportunity for you to share your thoughts with the community. So before going into the first question, in terms of logistics, you guys will have up to 4 minutes to answer each question. And for this part, Alondra will be keeping track of time by signaling us when there are 2 minutes remaining, and then again at 1 minute remaining. Do you have any questions about the structure of the questions portion?
No.
Great. Starting off, our first question is, how will you guys prioritize elevating student concerns to the William & Mary administration? And how will you work with them to ensure that those concerns get resolved in a timely manner?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you for that question. I think the biggest part about this is, making sure that students understand, we're student elected. We were not, put here by administration. Like, we are student elected, and we're here to listen to students. And I think it's really, really important for us to acknowledge that. And as Meghana had just mentioned, if for us to be a funnel for student concerns, and just listen and understand and implement those things from there. So.
Yeah, and we'll do this through some very tangible measures. One is as we change the Constitution this year to allow for referendums and surveys of the student body, that's given us invaluable data over the past year. And it's how do we expand that and use that further? Second is creating more spaces for students to come and discuss and vocalize their concerns. So that could be making meetings more public. We meet over Zoom now, and that's actually increased student involvement. How do we continue that in person? It's also going to be, if the student body is reacting one way, how do we react proportionately? For example, if 2,100 students are signing a pass-fail petition, how do we react proportionally, which we've been trying really hard to do. And I believe that's an attitude we need to take into the next year. And it's also, first of all, increasing our relationships with administration. I feel like students have very limited social and political capital on campus right now. And SA's role has been expanding gradually over the past 3 years of my time here, but it's how do we expand it and create a relationship of trust and respect so that we have a greater voice in these committee discussions. So that's what we'll be doing.
Yeah, well, there's actually a question later on submitted by a community member addressing surveys and referendums. So it'll be interesting to hear more of that in detail later on. Our second question, though, is what specific initiatives do you guys have in mind related to diversity and inclusion on campus?
Yeah, so my first thing about that is we believe that there have been so many awareness campaigns on diversity and inclusion, but now it's how do we take it to the next step, right? It's not limiting D&I initiatives to one department. It's having those ideas kind of encompass your entire platform. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So that took several steps. One is making sure that health services and mental health services are not only addressing the general population, but also addressing minority populations on campus who might need a different set of trained clinicians or trained programming. It's also looking at previous data trends in terms of financing registered student organizations and figuring out where are multicultural orgs, falling short of the money, where are smaller organizations struggling to get that money. And it's reforming that system from the bottom up and building it again to make sure that guidelines are more tailored towards organizations. It's looking at things like outreach and transparency, which Zenobia is going to cover, but it's going to look at how are we connecting to organizations who have these individualized interests and how are we bringing that to the center of our SA discussions.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for us and as student assembly in general to understand we are not experts. We don't know everything. It'd be kind of silly of us to get up here and say that we know everything. But there are so many student leaders and so many people that do know more than us. And I think it's a really good idea for us to sit and listen to them and hear what they have to say regarding these issues. So
yeah,
and
that's a really good point.
Another thing, if I could add, it's also expanding trainings, right? So SA over the past few months has been doing diversity and inclusion trainings within internally. Some other organizations have been doing it here and there, but it's how do we make these mandatory? How do we make them standardized? And how do we begin to discuss things like allyship and confrontation and understanding other communities without, by doing it the right way? It's kind of making those trainings mandatory and standardized across the school.
Yeah, I've already seen, I think, a lot of those partnerships building this year with the heightened awareness of a lot of different issues around campus. And I think it'll be really great to see you guys work on those things to deepen those partnerships. So our third question is a little bit lengthier, so bear with me. According to a definition provided by the Monash University of Australia, intercultural competence is the ability to function effectively across cultures, to think and act appropriately, and to communicate and work with people from different cultural backgrounds. Can you expand on what intercultural competence means to you personally and how that understanding will be applied to your work in the upcoming year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And thank you for taking the time to look up that definition. And to me, we pretty much, Megan and I are pretty much following the same exact definition of intercultural competence. However, there is more to that. It's not only, it's acknowledging, it's engaging and with different cultures. And I had said before, understanding that we are not experts. And from that, it's listening and it's taking action and, taking what they're telling, that people are telling us and, creating actual tangible initiatives from it. And that's kind of how I see that working in our administration. If you want to touch on that more.
Yeah, I think intercultural competence, that's something I've had to reflect on a lot in my time on campus. I think in SA, I've had to sit on meetings where I am, I'm an ally. I'm not the person who's supposed to be taking the center stage. I just have to sit there and listen. And that's what SA has taught me. Sometimes it's much more important to just sit there and listen. I'm a very talkative person, but it's realizing that a lot of the times when you're sitting in these committee meetings, it's being quiet, it's being listening. It's, to listen, and it's also educating yourself. I've had to do a lot of readings over the past year, and that's something Zenobia and I remain committed to. It's the only way to create intercultural competence is to have these dialogues across campus. And I kind of want this culture that we've established in SA over the past year to spread across campus. I feel like there are huge disconnects on campus right now. Some issues don't have to be as polarizing as they are. So it's how do we create these safe spaces to have these discussions, because then we get comfortable with them. And then we also find commonalities and common points. So I think that's what it's gotten to mean for me over SA. I realized just in meetings, how much listening and being patient and educating yourself and reading can matter. And that's kind of what intercultural competence means to me.
Yeah. And I just, putting emphasis on the education part, it's our job. We all have a responsibility to educate ourselves. And, as president and vice president, we know that, like I said, we don't know everything, but it's not, nobody's required to teach us. Nobody is required to take time out of their lives and, cater to us. So it is our job to educate ourselves and, do the work.
Yeah, that's really important. And I'm really glad to hear that. I think over the past year and during all of our times at William & Mary, we really learned how important it is to have that curiosity to reach out and look for those people with the greater knowledge, even if they aren't experts. But it's really hard because then sometimes it's harder to not place that burden on someone else. But thank you both for those really thoughtful responses. So we have 7 questions total. This is number 4. The Student Assembly has been making efforts to provide constituents with spaces for discussions or surveys regarding our perspectives and experiences like referendums. How will you ensure that the information gained through these efforts get translated into meaningful actions that are more tangible and that we see on a daily basis as a change to our realities and experiences on campus?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think SA's new expansion into data collection has been honestly game-changing, right? Now we're able to see what students actually value on campus. And I think a lot of that cultural shift has also been a change in the technologies that are available to SA. So just for one example, when I was finance chair, we didn't have, it was hard to get data from how we spent money in the previous years. But just with SA and SLD incorporating TribeLink, which is a website that everyone probably uses on campus, and people probably are like, oh God. Okay, but anyways, we're trying to we're able to see, oh, how much money have we spent so far? What organization is getting what amount of money? Small things like that have actually changed the way SA operates drastically. And that same thing is kind of spilling over into everything we do. A lot of the referendums, we are able to collect data that we honestly didn't know existed. And that's kind of what the previous administration did. They were really methodical in their work, and that before they made an action, they collected the data on it, they made a plan out of it, they researched it, and then they implemented it. And I think that's something that we've learned a lot from and that we're going to implement it next year too. But it's also exactly, how do we get tangible results out of it? I think that's the tricky part. And the only way you could do it is, Zenobia and I were talking earlier today, it's about being aggressive about it. You can't just get data, and you have to be able to leverage it in a way that actually transforms the way the school views things. We realized, this is kind of unfortunate, but it's kind of how bureaucracies work, I guess, large organizations, but it's you can post things on social media, you can have opinions, half the school could have an opinion, but sometimes it's just not as effective as just telling you that, oh, 70% of the school supports this. Why can't we just do it then? So I figure that data has changed the power of SA and how we're able to actually garner student energy and student opinion about something and kind of elevate it. And it's got to be through aggressive pushing. There's only one way you can actually use that data, and we can do some things. We can fund initiatives on campus. We can use our money and use our bills and legislation to do things. But at the end of the day, it's also being aggressive in terms of advocating for the things we believe for, not stopping after the administration's over, and increasing that institutional memory. I don't know if you want to wrap.
Yeah, I'm just going off of that, like Megan has said, most governing bodies or, large institutions, they don't like change. And, that's not really our problem. And I really think our role is to apply pressure. If we're getting survey results and we're getting data and we're analyzing that data, it is our responsibility and it is our duty to apply that pressure and, just do what the students want. Because I think for a really long time, it's been more about bureaucracy and all of that. And I don't think that's fair to student assembly or just students in general. So I think our job here is to just apply pressure.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of members in the audience excited to hear that with a lot of the recent announcements and advocacy tools that have been implemented.
Yeah. And if I just add a little bit onto that, it's also tracking our data utilization into other departments, right? Right now it's centralized in like referendums or like finance. It's spreading it out into like tracking health center services. Are students getting the services they need? It's expanding it into how many people are actually seeing our like social media graphics, like expanding that data tracking into like other departments so we can find the disconnect between us and students who are kind of looking to us for like direction or ideas.
Yeah, and that's really great to hear that you guys are working on finding those gaps and where that reach really isn't hitting. So thank you both for your answers to that question. Our fifth question is, what is a unique perspective, experience, or platform issue that you think sets your campaign apart from those of student body reps or candidates of previous years?
So I can get it started. As I had mentioned earlier, I have not had any time in student assembly during my 3 and some years here. And I think, as I said, like I've had a lot of time to see what campus is like. I've had a lot of time to be introspective. And I think specifically for our campaign, like right now, I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, that doesn't happen that often. So
I hope not.
yeah, I hope not. But that's something like we have to work through. And then like writing our campaign and our platform, I'm sorry, and just coming up with initiatives, like that's something we always have to consider. And I mean, along with that, like we are just entering this new era. I mean, for as long as I've been here, like I have never seen students as vocal. I have never seen like so much power like behind student voices and student leaders. And I'm just so grateful that we're entering our like presidency and vice presidency during this time, because I'm just so excited to see like where that takes us. So
yeah, I think more than ever, as Zenobia just said, there are a lot of really vocal student leaders on campus who over the past few months have become really important in taking leadership roles in SA. And that's what our administration's goal is there are knowledgeable, educated, we talked about intercultural competence before, but like educated students on campus who are sometimes more fit to lead initiatives than us. And it's making sure they get the space to lead and how to make sure that we are the advisors who are able to support them with any resources or with people or with like just advice. And like elevating their concerns to administration. I think that's what's kind of different, in that we have created spaces for where student leaders can just take on their initiatives and go on from there. Another thing is also just focusing on building systems that just haven't worked previously from the ground up. Just like start again. We are started again from scratch. I think a lot of SA, we're really old school, and SA is a really old assembly. So it's figuring out which systems have been here for too long, like which systems are no longer in touch with the students, and just rebuilding them from the ground up. And I think that's something we're really going to focus on.
Yeah, that's really exciting to hear. I definitely think some of the traditions we have on campus are like habits or norms that definitely need to be reevaluated. Did you want to add anything else, Zenobia?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, I think that going into next year, obviously want to build on like the current administration, but as Megan has said, like there are some things that, are a not so great foundation. Can't really build a house on a bad foundation. So get rid of the foundation and start over. So that's kind of the plan for some stuff.
Yeah, that sounds great. So our second to last question is, do you have any ideas for initiatives for addressing sustainability issues on campus?
Yeah, so we divided that into like short-term and long-term goals, right? I guess short-term goals and long-term like aspirations and dreams. But long-term, like short-term is just that expanding compost bins on campus. I think, first of all, we're going to be remote for a couple months after now. We're going to be taking out from dining halls for a couple months from now. SA was able to fund new compost bins around campus, but we need to continue expanding that. There's a lot of trash on campus, and that's just a result of the pandemic. So figuring out where can we put new compost bins, where should they be going so that they're getting the trash collected in them. And there's also learning how to properly dispose of like masks, like very small things like that are unique to our current situation. It's also going to be long-term things. So according to like the university's like climate action plan, their goal is to be carbon neutral by 2030. So it's how could SA play a role in that? Like I know sustainability is something that excites a lot of students. How do we get student attention to that? How do we continue to get student leaders who are really knowledgeable about it to continue serving on these committees that the university has? And it's also investing in these long-term goals that might not happen in our administration, but we hope they happen, right? Like, for example, like investigating bringing more solar panels on campus. How do you change to electric powered tools and vehicles on campus? How do you basically kind of urge organizations to be more sustainable in their actions? Like, why are we printing so much? How are we, let's reevaluate the way we act so that we're, printing less paper, like throwing away less trash, like being more climate friendly. I think having those organizations, too many TIONs, those conversations with organizations, that's something we hope to start next year.
Yeah, that's really exciting to hear. When you mentioned 2030, I was like, that's so far away. And then I realized it's less than a decade
I had
away.
that realization today too.
Yeah, but it's really nice to hear about how you have like those concrete short-term, like pandemic era plans, as well as the longer ones. I had one more question following up to that though.
Yeah.
Do you know if there are already initiatives that you have in mind or are already in place now with like the disposable masks and that disposal, I guess, process?
Yeah, so I'll start off with the bins thing. I know there are certain areas on campus where there are simply no compost bins, and it's kind of because we need to work with staff to make sure like we're able to pick up that trash. So going into more like graduate complexes, going into like the edges of campus, like Ludwell, making sure they have compost bins available. That's like our tangible plan for that. In terms of mask stuff, I think the stuff like I've seen social media graphics about it. We've seen the tiny bits of news articles here when you read about it. But honestly, I walk on campus a lot and I just see masks on the ground. And that could just be because they're accidentally falling out, or it could just be because like disposable masks, you can't wear them again. So it's figuring out ways for like, there are probably ways and like educational campaigns that we can like kind of enact to tell people, hey, this is how you properly dispose of a mask. Hey, like this is how you use a mask properly, kind of things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, Zenobia.
Yeah, and I think definitely advocating and like amplifying the voices of people already, that are knowledgeable of this, and getting more like us ourselves learning more about sustainability efforts. And a lot of it could be through the version of like infographics and like educational initiatives in order to teach people like, what is composting, how do I dispose of a mask, how do I do different things that are good for the environment. And I guess like one thing that really stands out to me is I guess holding the administration accountable for the climate plan for the 2030 for 2030. Just looking through that, understanding that, and just being able to like see where we are, like how much progress we've made, would be like really important to us. So
yeah, definitely. I think listening and like getting that feedback loop from even other students is such a great way to engage with that, because even if there aren't students that are like experts per se, I feel like there are a lot of students at this campus that know a lot about like really unique, different or less, I guess, exposed sustainability like practices and concepts. Like I know one of my friends sent me an article about how like leaf blowers on campus that are gas powered leave a really big like pollution impact, like even more than compared to like a truck going a long distance. So I know there are some efforts currently in place to like address that. And I'm excited to hear so many specific ideas from you guys about like all those different sustainability measures. So going into our last question, we'll again have 4 minutes to divide out, and then we'll go into our closing statements afterwards. So our last question is, what do you think the role of the student assembly is, if any, in the ongoing conversations about the presence of fraternities and sororities on campus, especially regarding their diversity and inclusion efforts or status?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you. I think the big thing for us in our administration is accountability, and something that I like to call forced transparency. And by that, I guess I mean, requiring those DEI trainings, like requiring that work. If there was a way, like, we need tangible action, like that's what we need. I think for a really long time, there have been a lot of groups that, that stuff has been overlooked, and, it's not acceptable anymore. Like, we need to hold those like organizations accountable when it comes to not only DEI, but like, hazing prevention and stuff like that. And I think that the first step is accountability, as well as, making sure that they are required to present like, actual tangible results, Yeah. So.
Yeah. And another thing along with that is also recognizing that 30% of our student population is in fraternities and sororities. And also on top of that, William & Mary is such a unique school where if you are in a sorority or a fraternity, you're probably still involved with like multiple organizations outside. And that's something we've kind of studied, in that these organizations have weekly chapter meetings. And there are unique partnerships we can form with them and still connect to a lot of organizations on campus, because these fraternities and sororities have a lot of students who are very active on campus. So it's figuring out partnerships with them to increase awareness, increase transparency, increase campaigns, awareness campaigns, educational campaigns. We find that they're still very unique partners on campus because they're able to have such a large portion of campus in them, but also they're very active on campus. For example, like a lot of my friends who are in sororities and fraternities, they're involved in Tripethon, they're involved in SA, they're involved in MUN, they're involved in so many things on campus. So they're a really unique lens into what campus is like. But another thing is also understanding that these people are also very, wow, I just lost my train of thought. But another thing that I've realized is that our culture is shifting slowly on campus, but it's shifting. For example, I took my first ever implicit bias test before sophomore year of recruitment. So it's shifting. It's not enough for a system that was built on racist principles, on cultural appropriation, but it's shifting in a way where it could positively impact a few students going forward. So I think it's tapping into that positive change, but as Zenobia said, also increasing accountability, making sure we're rectifying things that are glaringly wrong on campus, and making sure we're kind of confronting this dual reality we live in, where we're seeking community, but we're also benefiting from a system that, requires privilege.
Can I ask you guys one follow-up question with that?
Yeah.
So one thing that I personally learned recently, as a suggestion from an expert that works in DEI issues, is, I guess, kind of ingraining some of those strategies for improving DEI practices or conditions or realities into the existing system. So not really making things additional, optional, like voluntary, but kind of building things into a structure that already exists. So I guess you kind of touched on like how chapter meetings are already in place and a really good space that are in existence to make use of. I know, Zenobia, you mentioned a little bit about how these chapters and organizations need to be held more accountable in actively participating in those efforts. Have you thought about how SA could, I guess, take a role in facilitating that and kind of encouraging those activities to take place without being seen as like a additional check mark or additional activity that just takes place, I guess, outside of normal operations of those activities, of those organizations?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit in our platform, and I think that, making D&I trainings required for all organizations on campus would be a great thing. But, at the end of the day, I think it's just ingraining into our society that like these trainings are important. Like, you're always going to have those people that are like, oh, I don't want to do this. And like, you're going to do it anyways. I think like just making sure that, these trainings and, principles of equity and equality are so ingrained in like our community that, when they're not presented in a certain area, like, that's, and, it's not, prevalent in a space, like that is called out and like that is able to be like held accountable. And I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of making it seem more like a gap rather than an additional step they haven't taken.
Right. Like this should be something ingrained to begin with. Like, it's not like something else, like, oh, something else I have to do. Yeah. Like, no, you should be excited to do this.
Yeah. Sorry to surprise you with that follow-up.
No,
question.
you're
I thought audience members would appreciate, I guess, the additional clarity on that essay role piece to the question. Yeah. So thank you so much for answering all of those questions in such great depth and like meaningful responses. I guess in this final part, we'll close with your final statements addressing what this campaign means to you both as individuals and what you would like community members to know going into Election Day, also moving forward beyond during the course of your administration.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Oh, and you'll have 5 minutes together for this portion.
Okay, well, first of all, I think what this campaign means to me is that I love William & Mary. I think it's given me so much. I think I've learned so much. I've changed so much as an individual. I've met so many amazing people and I've learned from so many amazing people. And I think this next year is going to be another way where I could give back to the community that gave me so much. I know, like, honestly, personally speaking, things are really hard right now. It's hard to be remote. It's hard to be wearing 2 masks next to my like best friends on campus. It's hard to confront these like discussions that we're having that are really serious. And I don't think I was having these discussions 2 years ago, but I think they're really important ones to have. It's kind of hard right now, but I do think that we're all in this together. I think I found a lot of strength through community over the past year. And I think our campaign can seem very serious and very, let's reform everything, things suck. But honestly, we're really lucky to be able to marry. I'm really lucky to know the people I know. And I'm really looking forward optimistically to a year where we'll get to connect with community again, bring back student life gatherings, bring back like the vibrancy that we had one day. In a year from now, we'll be in person, I promise. Actually, I can't promise anything. I don't know, just wear 2 masks, please. But it's also, you know, that's what this campaign means to me. It's returning to a normalcy before we graduate, hopefully, and making sure that we remember that we're a community at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think there are some new promises from President Joe Biden. So President Megan Abujala can also make some additional promises based on those promises.
On a tiny scale.
Zenobia?
Yeah, so as I had mentioned probably like a couple times before, so if you don't know, now you know. But this is my first year in student assembly, and I'm really, really grateful because you know, this is you know, I have a lot to learn about student assembly. I'm going to be honest with you, you know, as vice president, like I'll be primarily running Senate, and I have a lot to learn, and it's going to be an uphill battle, but I am really, really grateful that I have such an awesome team with me. You know, so many people like that I can learn from, so many people willing to teach me. And, you know, I'm just excited to learn more. I'm excited to see campus from a different perspective. And I guess to me, this campaign is just like, and, you know, being vice president is kind of like my way of, you know, giving back to the community in a way. You know, William and Mary has given me so much already. And, you know, I love William and Mary, but I can see that there are some like fundamental issues with, you know, our campus community or the administration. And, you know, I think that I'm in a really, you know, Megan and I are both in a really good position to tackle these issues and to, you know, move forward, keep applying pressure. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'll just add really quickly that
No worries.
the entire goal is to bridge the gap. So if
Mhm.
any students watching this or any students have any questions or feedback or just would like to talk more to us, feel free to reach out to us through our Instagram page, through our feedback form, through any way. We respond to anything, but we're here to talk to you and figure out solutions together.
Yeah, that all sounds great. Any last thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I'd just like to say like we could not do what we do without students. Like at the end of the day, like
Just assembly.
just assembly. You know, we couldn't, you know, be where we are today without our community. And I think that a really big part of our administration is going to be, you know, acknowledging that community and moving forward with that community. And like Megan has said, like, we're all in this together, like a little High School Musical, but you know, like we're all like working together. And I think that, you know, this could be good. This will be fun.
Yeah, great. Last call for final thoughts.
I'm good to go.
We're really excited.
Great. In that case, thank you everyone for being with us here tonight virtually. To learn more about these candidates, as well as those running for undergraduate class representative positions, check out their ballot statements, platform videos, and campaign websites and social media accounts on the candidates page of the SA Elections website. All students eligible to vote in the elections this Thursday should have already received an email verifying your eligibility. If you haven't received that verification email already, please reach out to the SA Independent Elections Commission by 5 p.m. tomorrow, March 30th. All eligible voters will get another email Thursday morning with the link to access the virtual ballot on TribeLink directly. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.